Hello, friends. It is the first week of training camp, and we are here to talk some Orlando Magic basketball, one of the most anticipated seasons in Orlando Magic history. This is a live edition of Locked On Magic, as well as an Orlando Magic Daily Twitter space. Or X space, I don't know what they're called anymore. So let's get to it. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. You are indeed Locked On Magic if you're watching on YouTube or on the Twitter spaces. You're on OrlandoMagicDaily.com. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the site expert and editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Today, we are doing a live training camp episode. So we're here to do your questions, talk a little bit about what we're seeing from the Magic in training camp, all that good stuff that you guys love to hear. I'm here to talk with you guys. We'll be here maybe 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes or so, longer if necessary. So bring your questions. I think I have a key in on comments or anyone that is showing up. So bring your questions. I'm here to answer your questions, here to do whatever you need me to do here for the next hour. And hopefully we'll do some more of these live shows coming in the very near future. I will apologize first. I am seeing the very bad little radio signal on my StreamYard. StreamYard and my internet do not get along. We're working on it. We're in therapy. We're gonna get through this together. So if I'm a little garbled, I do apologize for that. I will be hoping to find a fix on that very, very soon. Before we get into that, though, I want to thank you all for those listening on Locked On Magic for subscribing and tuning into Locked On Magic. Remember, you can find a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA by searching for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. As people begin to pile into the Twitter space, into the YouTube page, again, please leave your comments or questions. I will try to get to as many as I can. If you're in the Twitter spaces, go ahead and make speaker requests, and I'll get your questions in as well. But let's start with this today. Let's start with where we're at in training camp. The big theme, and if you heard me talk about this and listen to Locked On Magic or been on Orlando Magic Daily, you know what the themes are for this training camp. This training camp is about growth. It is about development. It is about maturity. It is about the details. It is about getting everything kind of fine-tuned and ready to go for the upcoming season. There are undoubtedly big ambitions for this, whether the Magic want to believe it or not, whether the Magic want to say it or not, they're not hiding from being a playoff team. We've talked about this earlier in the week. They're not hiding from wanting to be a playoff team. What they're trying to learn now in the next week of training camp and through the next 2-3 weeks in preseason is the day-to-day actions of a playoff team. That's really what's at stake here for the Orlando Magic, is learning what it takes to be a playoff team every day. I'm always a little dubious when a coach comes out or when anyone comes out early on in training camp and says, we didn't have the right intensity today. I think some of that's usually a ploy. Steve Clifford was notorious for always in the first camp was bad, but Jalen Suggs, when we talked to him earlier today at the media availability for the Magic, said, the evening session did not have the intensity that the Magic needed. And, Jamal Mosley called the team out for it. Players had to kind of reflect and absorb that, and they came back at least for their early session today, and to Suggs's word, and in Suggs's words and in Mosley's words, had a strong effort, had a more focused effort. This team in the season is about maturity and is about finding ways to be better and more consistent with their effort, with their intensity, with their intention every day, with the time that they have together. The Magic are a determined bunch. Let's make that very, very clear. And that's why I'm a little dubious, because I know we all know these guys work hard. Yes, they're a little mature sometimes. They're definitely very, very young. Their focus wanders and strays sometimes. And honestly, that's one of their big weaknesses. What 27th in the league in turnover rate last year, 28th in the league in turnover rate last year. Cleaning up those turnovers and being more precise and more efficient is a big part of the game for the Orlando Magic this year. And so what the team is working on right now is getting those details down, understanding what they have to do, understanding what they're going to do day to day by day to be a winning team. And again, that's going to start here in training camp. It's going to start with discussing and holding each other accountable and calling each other out sometimes. You know, one of the ways this team is growing, and mentioned this today, was that, you know, last year, yeah, they held each other accountable, but sometimes they were a little late. Sometimes they waited till after a game to talk to the player, or a less kind of threatening way rather than in the heat of battle. It's not that they didn't address the issues that need to be addressed. They came after the fact. The players were afraid to step on each other's toes, according to Suggs. This year, as Suggs put it, we're all business. This year, they want to be a team that is going to correct mistakes in the moment. They're not going to wait. They're not going to stop. They're not going to wait until a problem is too far gone. They're going to address moments. They're going to address these mistakes in the moment. And look, the team's familiarity is certainly helping them kind of quickly move through things that, you know, Mosley described it today as they're doing things that they normally do on day 5 and at day 2. So the Magic are progressing and advancing the way that they want to, it seems like. Now the question becomes, can they put all these pieces together? Can they show the consistency when the season begins? Because, you know, everyone looks good in training camp. You know, we got a week, you know, less than a week now before the first preseason game. We got 2 weeks until, 3 weeks, I guess, until 3 weeks from today, actually, until the first regular season game. It's going to come quickly. And obviously the Magic, you know, the margin of error between the Magic making or missing the postseason is going to be very, very thin. It's going to be very, very small. It's going to be very, very tiny. And they're going to have to start with that first game. I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. Beating Houston on opening night, and I think Houston's going to be a tough challenge. They're a much, much improved team, you know, adding some veteran players. That is a must win before the team goes out west. They have to win that game. They have to be ready to play. And I think there is an overall determination on this team to be better, but it starts with the details. It starts with leadership. It starts with all the little things that a team has to do to win that, you know, this team, frankly, is very unproven in showing that they can do that. That's the theme of training camp. You know, I've probably written it 2 or 3 different ways already, that this season is about growing up, like plain and simple. Turning the ball over less, making fewer mistakes, correcting mistakes quicker, holding each other accountable, doing the little things, whatever little things are that enable you to win, learning how to win more consistently, you know, stopping losing streaks, extending winning streaks. That's what the season's about learning. That's what this season is for this team to do. As Jeff Waltman said, I was listening back to his BD day availability. They're still figuring who this team is. And so this season's going to go a long way to helping them figure all of that out, every little bit of it. So yes, a lot of what we're focused on right now is, okay, how is this team showing up in those details? How are they getting those details, and how are they expanding and growing from there? That's my spiel for today. For at least the opening segment. I would love to get your questions. I see a question popping into the StreamYard, so we'll get to that. I have the Twitter Spaces open as well, so if you have a speaker request and we'll jump on the show that way, I'll put you up to the mic and get you there. So we will get to all of your questions and everything else coming up here in just a moment. But since I am doing Locked On Magic, I'm going to do a quick ad read. And today's podcast is brought to you by our good friends over at Birddogs. Look, before Birddogs even jumped on with Locked On, I wanted to try them out. They seemed like really comfortable. The idea of a liner pant was interesting. At least, you know, I'm lazy like most guys, but Birddogs blew me away. They just simply make you look good. Lots of some pants through Birddogs that I wear to work, that I wear to Magic practices and Magic games. They look so good that you can wear them anywhere. You can wear them on the golf course. You can wear them at the beach. You can wear them to work. Birddogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better and look a whole lot better too. Birddogs fixed the issue of stiff restricting cotton by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit and allows you to breathe and move around a little bit. Birddogs also uses anti-thick sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. They're functional for any occasion. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter promo code LockedOnNBA. Check out for a free Birddogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. As I said before, this episode is for you guys. I want to know what your questions are heading into training camp and what you guys are thinking. I'm here to answer your questions. We'll hang out here till about 6:05 is probably when I'm going to cut it off because I have to eat and get ready for another podcast and the Orlando City game and the Marlins game and all that fun stuff. Check out Locked On Marlins if you want some Marlins. Locked On Rays if you want to be depressed about the Tampa Bay Rays. But let's start. So if you're on the Twitter Spaces, go ahead and send in a speaker request if you want to jump in. Let's start with some two comments. Life as a Magic fan asked us, I know training camp is always exciting, but do you feel a different energy in the building this year? And quite frankly, I do. Even before we got to this season, there really did feel like a different energy about this Magic team. Just completely different energy about this Magic team. A lot of it is fan anticipation and fan excitement, but I think the players share the same excitement for what this team's going to build and what this team's going to be, as much as the fans do. And I think that is frankly exceptionally rare for kind of synergy between what the fans are feeling and what the team is feeling. And the sun is coming right in my eye, so I apologize for the bad camera work. This group, they've been working together for 2 years. It's been virtually the same group for the last 2 seasons entering this year. They know they're on the precipice of something. They really did gain a lot of confidence. And so, look, I've been covering the team covering this team as a member of the media since the 2011 season. And so I've been through all the rebuilds. And I can tell you no season felt like this entering the season. Maybe the 19 and 13 season, I think that was 2016 with Scott Skiles. Maybe that season started to feel a little bit like that midway when they realized, oh, we're pretty good. We know what happened there. This group not only believes they're pretty good, but they believe they're about to build something very, very different. And I think you can feel that focus in the locker. You can feel that focus in the gym. You can feel that intensity in the gym. Like these are all young guys. They're still kids. But there is definitely an intention and a focus in what this team is trying to do and what they're trying to build. And I think that's really, really exciting. I think I feel it. I think the fans certainly feel it. I think the team certainly feels it. And again, we'll see. Because like you said, everyone's excited on training camp. Jeff Walt said it. Don't like your team on media day, then you did something wrong as a general manager. There's a lot of reasons to like this team. I think there's still a lot of reasons why this team could struggle, could falter. I don't want to, say that it's a sure thing that this Magic group's going to be what we all think they can be. What last season felt very, very real, felt very, very sustained. And now it's just about adding some maturity, adding some experience, and growing from there. So yes, that's life as a Magic fan. I do feel a very different energy in the building. There's confidence. It's not just that they believe how good they can be. They're confident that they are that good already. And so, we'll it's not Markelle Fultz confidence. Markelle Fultz is Markelle Fultz, but it's definitely there and it's present. Again, if you're listening on the Twitter Spaces, you can go ahead and drop in a speaker request if you want to jump on the show. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and put your questions in the comments. I can find them and pull them up, just like this one from D. Handel. Do you see any improvement from vets with regard to 3-point shooting? Let me just kind of hesitate, pause on this. so far in training camp, all they really let us do is watch the shooting drills at the end of practice. So I haven't seen any scrimmaging. The players speak in the vaguest of terms about how everyone's doing. They'll say, Anthony Black and Jet Howard are really eager to learn. They're, they all say the kind of PRE right things. We're not going to know how much better everyone is until Tuesday. And even then, we're not going to know how much better everyone is until Thursday against Cleveland. And even then, we're not going to know how good everyone is until the following Tuesday against New Orleans. Got to build some games up. And again, there's going to be some mixing and matching. Who knows who's dealing with little knocks and injuries. Everyone's supposedly healthy at this point. But are there any improvements from vets with regards to three-point shooting? I think that Jalen Suggs, I don't know if Jalen Suggs counts as a vet, but Jalen Suggs looks a lot more confident as a three-point shooter in the drills that I saw him take part in. I think Jonathan Isaac is, he shot 6 for 15 on three. So that's not a big enough sample to say anything. He's 33% three-point shooter before his injury. Jonathan Isaac looked like a pretty confident three-point shooter too. A little bit of a wind up, starts a little bit lower than I'd like to see him start, but I think he can hit open threes. I think Paolo might have gotten better at three-point shoot too. Surprised me if he shoots a better percentage. And on top of that, I know a lot of people like to cite that he was a fairly poor three-point shooter last year, but by the same token as well, he, take out the 1 for 32 February, 29% over on three. Take out the 1 for 32 February, he shot 33.3% from three. You expect young players to get better, get used to that three-point line as they get used to playing with NBA spacing. I do expect a little bit of a second-year jump, not quite a Kevin Durant 28% to like 35, 36, 37% jump, because I don't think he's that kind of shooter. But he can certainly be that kind of a shooter as well. You can certainly be a player that takes a little bit of a leap. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if he shoots 33% for the whole year. Wouldn't surprise me if he's up around 34 approaching 35%. I think just generally, we know Gary Harris is a good three-point shooter. Joe Ingles is a really good three-point shooter. Every time I looked over his court today, it did not seem like he missed. Adding him is a big, big deal. Even Anthony Black, NBA University commented on this on video that Cody Taylor took. And I took some video as well. Anthony Black looks like a better three-point shooter than he was in summer league. It really looked like he worked on his base and kind of widening his base and making sure he had a good solid foundation to get good lift. I think his shot is still prone to going left or right, the way that he shoots it, the way that he follows through on it. But I generally, watching him shoot consistently, it was there. He was making a good chunk of them. It wasn't a problem. The question is, when you get to games, does the old habits, does the old way of shooting kind of creep back in? So I think that is something to watch as well. But just generally, I don't know how much better again, we're not going to really know until we get into game situations, until we see these game situations. And obviously the coaching staff has more information because they're watching practices and they know more than we do at this point. But I do see just general 3-point improvement across the board. Are the Magic suddenly going to be a top offense in the league? Are they suddenly going to be a team that is top 10 in offensive rating, one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league? Absolutely not. They're not there yet. Unless Paolo becomes Kevin Durant or Paolo does something really crazy or Franz does something really crazy and takes just a leap, not just to stardom, but to superstardom. This team still has some irons to work out. I haven't seen Markelle Fultz shoot. I know a lot of people have been obsessed about that. And so it's for the Magic right now, it's just about seeing general improvement. Just keep getting better, keep adding the skill sets that you need. You can go outside the roster as well for that. I do think the Magic will be a better 3-point shooting team. I think they're a better 3-point shooting team than people give them credit for. I also think that it still makes sense for them to be low volume 3-point shooting team. I know that's been something I've talked a lot about this offseason, about how the Magic's 3-point math doesn't quite work, where they give up a lot of 3-point attempts. They're good defending threes, but they give up a lot of 3-point attempts. They don't take a lot of 3-point attempts on their end. I do think that the Magic probably have to get up around 32, 33, 34. I think they're at 34. They're probably going to need to get up to around 36, 37 point attempts. Again, 2-3 more is deal, especially if you're shooting a better percentage. So that's kind of where the Magic stand with 3-point shooting. And again, we'll see how it all plays out. Once we have, game guy, like I know I say this a million times, I'm a game guy. I need games. I need data. I need to see something to really know what we're talking about and break it down. So we'll see what ends up coming up from there. We have a speaker request here on Twitter Spaces. I'm going to get to you in just a moment. But first, I do have to say a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. If I can get everything loaded up. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you make a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. And check it out today and use that code LOCKEDON. All right, I want to thank you guys for letting me do my reads. Makes my life a lot easier editing this. Let's hear from Kyler Aubrey. He brings in a speaker request. Let's let him get in. Kyler, are you there? Kyler, are you there, my man? Kyler, you there? Kyler, you there? Okay. No. Maybe not. Maybe I didn't add him. That's maybe that. Hey, Kyler. Still connecting. Okay. While we're waiting on Kyler, if you do have a question and you're watching on YouTube, you can go ahead and pop into the YouTube. You can pop into the YouTube and leave a comment. I'm here for you guys. I'm going to hang out here probably for the next 15 minutes or so. I don't have a lot to say. We're still kind of waiting, like I said, for games to happen and for us to get more information. So I apologize. I guess Kyler popped off. So thank you, Kyler. Go ahead and try again if you can. If you have a question about the Magic, be sure to jump in. Let's dive. While we're waiting, one of the things that obviously people are kind of talking about a little bit is the Magic's future, and the kind of the question that's rising about who they, what they do with their big contracts. Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz. They have 4 potential free agents coming up this offseason. 4 potential free agents this offseason with Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, the 2 big. And, I think there is a general worry among Magic fans that they're not going to get deals done. And we've talked a lot about them, kind of debate that's going to go into whether to re-sign them or not. I don't think it's necessarily a debate about whether to re-sign them. I think the Magic would like to bring both back. I think the issue is more about the cost, how much it's going to cost. I've had Markelle Fultz in the kind of $18 to $20 million a year range. He's got a contract where he made 16, but he might be looking for more. I think Cole is looking, I have Markelle in kind of the 20 to 23 range. I have Cole in the 18, 20 range. Maybe Cole's looking for a little bit more. It's hard to say. At media day, both kind of demurred. They didn't really want to talk about. They said our focus is on training camp. Our focus is on the season ahead. And I think a lot of Magic fans have asked me about this personally. And I think that it's probably to the benefit for both of them to play this season out because there's still just so much unproven about them. Just because they do not sign extensions today or before the deadlines or before the season begins does not mean the Magic are not going to keep them. I want that to be perfectly clear. The Magic, the way I know Jeff Weltman likes to operate, I am sure good relationships with their representatives. I'm sure there are some offers on the table, and I'm sure it will be like, okay, here's the offer on the table. Go out and prove to us that you should make more. And if you do that, we'll be happy to negotiate and happy to pay that. I think that is part of the way that Weltman operates. And look, both of these guys are really good players, but they're unproven. Fultz has 1 fully healthy season under his belt. Having a healthy season after a healthy offseason could certainly spike his value, or not only around the league, but for the Magic themselves. And look, there's a lot of questions among national media about who the point guard for this team should be. And so that is certainly part of kind of what the Magic are trying to determine. And look, I love Markelle Fultz. I know Magic fans love Markelle Fultz. It's not slam dunk that he's back. But I do think they'd like him back more than not. Cole Anthony's the same way. I love Cole Anthony. He's been fantastic. I really like him in the sixth man, but he's also made it publicly very clear that he believes he's a starter in this league. There's no bigger cheerleader on this team. I don't think he's a problem or anything. He really believes in this team. He really believes in his teammates. He's the biggest cheerleader for this team. And so that is part of the negotiation there. That is part of what's going into some of these talks as well. Cole Anthony had a really nice season last year coming off the bench. That was his first season coming off the bench. He hasn't proven that he can be a solid sixth man or much less better starter. And so another strong year helps him do that. Honestly, I think it is to the benefit for both Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony to play out this season, have good years, and cash in next summer. And so I kind of think both sides understand that, and both sides are welcome that possibility. And so I think that it's very, very possible that that's what we see. Let's dive back into some viewer questions. So if you're on the Twitter Spaces, go ahead and make a request if you want to jump on the show. Let's hear from Chubby Monster 04 who asks, is there anyone who you think will surprise us in preseason / the start of the season? Let's see. Surprise. It's kind of hard to say that because we know most of these players. D. Randall asked how has Isaac looked initially. I would probably put Jonathan Isaac in that group as who will surprise us in the preseason. And some of that is a lot of us haven't watched a Jonathan Isaac with no restrictions since 2020. It's been 3 years. And again, by all accounts, Isaac is playing with no restrictions. He is doing pickup. He did pickup runs before training camp started. He is in every workout, every training session, every practice right now. He and Jalen Suggs were getting into it at practice today when the media was in there in a three-point shooting contest, and Isaac was winning those. And that's not Jalen Suggs was shooting poorly. Jalen Suggs was shooting a lot better. I think Jonathan Isaac, look, if Jonathan Isaac's as good as we all remember 3 years ago, now it's 3 years ago. It's a long time ago. He's got to prove that he can stay on the court. If he proves himself to be that good, the Magic have three really good forwards. And there's, of course, the potential and the opportunity to start all three of them and to try and play all three of them. I think that the Magic will try to line up with Isaac Banchero and Franz Wagner all together. I think the Magic would be foolish not to play those three together and not to try and play those three together. I just think, we all know what kind of impact Isaac can make defensively. Now that he has kind of a steady base on him, now he kind of has a steady hand on him. Now maybe we see him take another step up and see, we'll obviously see him play for the first time and see him play regularly. I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think there's a lot of chance that Isaac has a really strong showing and really, I don't want to say make the Magic thing because I think Franz and Paolo are probably still guys they will build around, but allows them to be creative and try different things. And so, I think Isaac will be a surprise. I don't think Magic fans are giving Joe Ingles his proper due. I don't think a lot, yes, Ingles is on the older side, so he probably doesn't have as much in the tank, but he was during the World Cup. So we didn't get to see him at full force there, but Ingles is really good. And he's just a guy that just kind of makes everyone get together. One thing I really love about Wendell Carter is he's a great kind of passer from the high post. So you can kind of use him as a fulcrum, and you give the ball to him in the high post, he's going to make good passes and step into a screen. Ingles is like the same way. He's an excellent passer. As much as everyone's really excited to add him for shooting, he is an excellent passer. He makes the right pass. They're usually on target. They're usually pinpoint. He runs pick and rolls, and even though he's not super fast, he knows how to create space for himself and more importantly, how to manipulate space to create for others. You're obviously doing this in sort of a smaller sample size and smaller groupings, but he's an excellent 3-point shooter, which the Magic obviously need. I think that he's much healthier now after the ACL injury. The knee is fine. He had an ankle issue, I think, during the World Cup. Now we're going to get out and see how he can contribute to this team. And obviously this Magic team needs shooting. Like, if I have a controversial hot take, It's that Jett Howard's going to have a better rookie year than Anthony Black. And, I'm really encouraged by some of the things I've seen personally from Anthony Black. But is he going to take another, what's he going to do his rookie year? I think Ingles' skill set is really, really valuable and fits a lot of what the Magic do. Now, can he hold his own defensively? The Magic, he's a good defender, never been a great defender. How is he going to be able to hold his own defensively? How's he going to, handle the grind again? Is he going to be able to match up physically? That is certainly a fair question to ask, and a reason why maybe Joe Ingles isn't part of the future. I kind of answered this question, but I'll pop it up here. Durandal asked, who has impressed you the most at media day and early in training camp? Joe has definitely been a big one. Talking to him at media day was fun. Like, he is everything that has been advertised. Players talked very glowingly about him and the presence that he's bringing, and he's very laid back. Everyone knows him as this great trash talker, and he is someone that talks, and everyone's kind of talked about it already. But he's just seemingly a good guy, and he said, I'm not career winning championships. I want to be a veteran presence. I want to pass things down to the next generation. I want to be somewhere where my kid can go to a good school. His oldest child is on the spectrum. Joe Ingles is very big into autism awareness. You can check out Joe Ingles a little bit. You can check out some of Joe Ingles' work on that front, and it's very, very worth your time. And I'm sure he's going to have some programs as well. He's in Orlando. Ingles definitely impressed. Honestly, quietly, not so quietly, but I don't think fans have talked about it. The biggest addition to this team has been Arnie Kander. Arnie Kander is the new vice president of player performance. He is essentially the head trainer for the team. He really seems to have changed the approach for a lot of players. I don't like to criticize doctors or medical personnel because we don't know. We don't know everything they do. Injuries are random. You can't really control a lot of things. But I think it is telling, and I think it is important that after 3 very injury-filled seasons, the Magic moved on from, a high performance director and David Tenney, who came from the soccer world to the NBA. They went from him to Lindsay Winninger, who was, a physical therapist. She helped rehab Lindsey Vonn. So it's not that these people don't know the human body. They just don't know basketball. Arnie Kander was the head trainer was one of the trainers for the Detroit Pistons back when they made their championship runs in the 2000s. And his approach is very whole body. They have ended their 2 practice sessions that the media were led into with some stretching along the wall with Bob Marley. A, good choice in music. B, that's not something that the Magic are necessarily doing under previous guys. And again, who knows what the approach is they're doing back. I'm not here to criticize what previous regimes have done, but everyone we asked about Arnie Kander has been very, very high on his approach and very, very complimentary of what he has added to the group and to the team. And so I think that is part of the equation as well. Again, we're going through viewer questions here. So if you're on the Twitter Spaces and you have a speaker request, go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. If you're on YouTube as well, you can leave a comment, just like this one from Luis Moreno, who asks, I'm sorry if you already talked about him. We didn't, don't worry. But how do we feel about Mo? Seems odd to me that people aren't talking about him as much after his great World Cup run. And that's very, very fair, Luis. I don't think we are talking enough about Mo Wagner and what he provides. I was really impressed with his run at the World Cup. I thought he defended really well, which has been my bugaboo with him. He's obviously he set really, really good screens. I have him as the team's backup center. I like Goga Bitadze a lot, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a competition between Mo Wagner and Goga Bitadze. But I think Mo Wagner is going to get those backup center minutes. I think his defense, especially, or his offense, especially, is something this team needs. He's going to be in lineups with Jonathan Isaac and Jalen Suggs, so they'll probably be covered defensively in a lot of ways. So Mo Wagner's offense, his ability to dish around the basket, his ability to step out and hit threes, his great screening, I think are really big piece. It's a pretty big piece of the puzzle for this Magic team and for what they're hoping to accomplish this year. So Mo had a career season last year, really stepped out. I was a doubter of his 2 years ago, really sold me, just plays with such great energy, plays with just enough of an edge. He's like right on the borderline. The Magic need a guy like that. That's going to kind of wake him up and be loud sometimes. This is a quiet group sometimes. He's going to help this team tremendously. And, I think that, I don't know what Jamal Mosley's ultimate philosophy is going to be, because he's never really had a healthy roster in his tenure. But I suspect that like Goga Batadze will be the one that gets the spot starts if Wendell Carter has to miss time. And that's probably when Wendell Carter has to miss time. But I think Mo Wagner is still going to get a good chunk of minutes off the bench. I think that he's going to get a lot of playing time. I expect him to average around 10, 12 points per game again a year. I'd like to see him be a little bit better defensively on the interior, but he led the team in taking charges last year. So, his energy is good. That he gives you everything, everything that you need. To that point, Durandal made this comment: Wendell's by the most underrated player on this team. Him and Fultz are the glue that holds the team together. Look at the Magic's record when either are out. That is absolutely true. And again, so many questions about this Magic team are really about injuries. Wendell Carter's never played more than 67 games in a season in his career. He's got to get above that number. He's got to be healthy. Like, he is that important. Like, I agree. He is the glue to this team. He does such a good job facilitating, finding the right guys. I really, really, really like Wendell Carter, and obviously love what he can bring to this team. Again, we're going to hang out here maybe for another 10 minutes or so. If there are still questions, if you have a question on the YouTube page, go ahead and pop a comment. I can pop it up on the screen and answer. If you're in the Twitter spaces, go ahead and make a speaker request. I saw someone make a speaker request while in that last answer. So if you want to jump in with your question, please go ahead and do so so I can answer your questions. Obviously, this is your time. I want to do more of these kind of Q&As and live shows as well. Maybe bring back the live pregame show for some road games as well, so we can chat about Magic before upcoming games and do a whole lot more. So got a speaker request here on the Twitter spaces. Skinny Hardaway. Hey, Skinny, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. What do you got?
Just first wanted to thank you for coming so far. Our training camp has been awesome. Obviously, all of us Magic fans have been waiting all summer for this, so it's dope to see all the coverage. Summer, a thought that I've had for this Magic team is that if they can rank in the top 10 on the defensive end, then they'll be a really good team. Coming training camp, that's all I've heard, actually, so that's really exciting. I wanted to ask you, so far from what you've seen at training camp, have you seen, because I saw an interview with J.I., and he was talking about the next step for him on the defensive end is to vocalize more. Obviously, he feels like he makes the right reads and know where he's supposed to be, but have you seen him or any other guys kind of take charge on the defensive end and lead this team?
Yeah, so unfortunately, they're very limited in what we see in practice. They're letting us in, maybe for the last 5 to 10 minutes to get some B-roll, watch them around. So I've only seen them shoot. So I can't speak yet to how much better defensively anyone is or where they're at defensively. But I really like what Isaac said, and Jalen Suggs spoke today, backed that up, said someone asked, Jonathan Isaac says, you guys believe that he believes they can be a top 10 defense. What do you think? And Suggs was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I believe we can. We got speed, we got size, we got strength, we got skill. Like, something that Isaac said really stood out to me, that he's been talking directly with Jalen Suggs about what they can do defensively. And so I think that, I do think that there's something there. The numbers. Magic finished 18th, I want to say, or 17th in the league in defensive rating overall, so nearly top half the league. They were 6th or 7th in the league in defensive rating after December 7th. There is real defensive potential here. There is real defensive potential, and like everyone's been saying, it's about getting those deals down. It's about over communicating where you're going to be and knowing what your coverages are going to be. It's reducing turnovers. Like, that's the biggest thing. Reduce your turnovers, and you're going to be set up really well to be in the half court. I think the Magic's half court defense is really good. Jamal Mosley, I think, is fantastic. I saw someone on here ask about Jamal Mosley's development as a coach, and that's something I'm very interested in as well. Jamal Mosley does a really good job mixing up defensive coverages. He makes sure that opposing teams are not comfortable, whether it's Cole Anthony giving token pressure to slow down a team getting into their sets, or, being able to switch 1 through 5 or blitzing screens. Like, I think something we will see this year is Magic be more aggressive with their defensive coverages and schemes, because they know what they're doing. They know, where they're supposed to be. They know what these coverages are supposed to be. They trust each other a lot more. So I do see this team taking a big defensive leap. I think I go back to Steve Clifford and what he used to say: if you're top 10 in the league in one category and top half of the league in the other, and in the other, you should be a playoff team. And I think that's kind of what the Magic's goal should be. Be top 10 in the league defensive. You're top 10 in the league in defense. You're probably making the playoffs. If the Magic can somehow get to 15th, I know they were 26th in the 20 league in offensive rating last year. If they could somehow get close to the top half of the league, let's say get out of the bottom 10. They haven't been outside the bottom 10 in offensive ratings since Dwight left. Like, that's the reality. If the Magic show any semblance of offensive life, this team could be really, really good and really take a major step forward. So, unfortunately, I can't speak directly to what we're seeing defensively. But I do think that this team is poised to take a major step forward defensively. What we saw from Paolo Banchero at the World Cup certainly hinted that he now understands he has another level he can get to defensively. A healthy Wendell Carter, not dealing with the plantar fascia issue, really, ups his defense, because I think he took a little bit of a step back defensively. And again, he's not going to use the injury as an excuse, but the injury was a good excuse for that. I think there's a lot of Magic to continue growing and learning. Yeah. Okay. Let's do another question on YouTube. If you're on the Twitter Spaces, you can go ahead and drop in with a speaker request if you want to ask a question. I'm not going to try and pronounce that, because I'm not very good at German. I don't want to butcher the language. But I appreciate all our listeners in Germany. We're all big Germany fans in the world, from the World Cup and Eurobasket the last few years, and very excited for the Olympics this summer. But he asked, how is Franz doing? And I think this is an important question, because as much as we're obsessed over Paolo Banchero taking another step to stardom, Marco Fultz coming back, Carter coming back, Jalen Suggs getting better, Jonathan Isaac coming back, all these guys, Franz does get lost in the shuffle. And so, again, I haven't seen them practice. I've seen them practice, but I haven't seen them do scrimmages. I haven't seen them do games. So I can't tell you directly one way or the other. We saw what Franz did at the World Cup. We saw him play at the World Cup. We know what he's capable of doing. We know that he is at that level. It certainly feels like that is going to translate to the NBA. Again, we've seen him do that in the NBA now for the last few years too. The question with Franz, and I think this will probably be a podcast pretty soon. I don't want to say when we talk to Franz. We might talk to Franz tomorrow after practice. So this might be a question better left for our next episode of Locked On Magic. These are alert. Look, we know what Franz is capable of doing. We've seen him do it 2 years now. For Franz, it is about doing it more, doing it better, just continuing to just be that constant drumbeat. Sometimes even being a little bit selfish. He is so unselfish. Sometimes he just has to demand the ball, and I think that's something that the Magic want to see him do. And I don't know if it's just in his nature. It's his nature not to be that way. But he looks fresh. He looks really good. The World Cup was a month ago. He looks recovered. He looks ready to go after that. So, I think we're all really excited for what Franz can do. I don't mean for him to get lost in the shuffle. He does. You just take what he does for granted. So, if I have a lesson that I'm going to hold myself to this year, don't take spectacular for granted. Just because something is normal does not mean it should not be celebrated. And that's kind of the Franz Wagner story, because he just say things that are spectacular that he just makes feel normal. And again, I think we're going to expect to see some of that again this year. Pax Bryant asks on YouTube, who came in most noticeably bigger and stronger? I think I'm not a big fan of muscle loss personally, but I think it's Jalen Suggs, to be perfectly honest. Jalen Suggs, just his whole outlook feels like it just completely changed. It felt like this was just a really good offseason for him to kind of reset himself, take stock of things and really become appreciative of his journey. He spoke really at length about it, how, some of the injury issues and some of the struggles that he had on the court really affected him personally and really kind of knocked him down a couple pegs. And he needed the time to kind of take a step back and appreciate things a little bit more. And I really feel like that's what he did this offseason, that he really spent his time not only improving his skill and playing, obviously, but finding some in the game again, making sure basketball is in its proper place and rebalancing his life. On top of that, he does look noticeably built. Like his shoulders look I don't want to say Dwightish, but they look big. He said today, he really focused on his balance, on getting stronger, but getting lighter, getting quicker, being able to take it's a little bit better, being able to get to the basket, working on his decision making, which I think is the really big thing for him. Jalen, if there's one player, I think we all think Markelle can take a pretty big leap this year, but if there's one player that could take a really significant leap this year and Magic from good team to great team, Jalen Suggs could be that guy. We've seen what that potential is. We know what that potential is. Like I say this all the time, the draft guys don't get players wrong. Like they don't get talent wrong. They might get players wrong. They might get people wrong. They don't get talent wrong. There's a reason Jalen Suggs was among the top guys in his class for the entire of that draft class until the Raptors passed him at number 4. That talent does not go away. He is still that talented player. He knows he's still that talented player. But he's had to face some adversity early on in his career. And, the Magic have stuck with him. He's stuck with himself. He's, worked hard. This is the season to start putting some of that together and to really show us who he could be. So I really do believe Jalen Suggs is due for a really, really strong season. And again, it'll kind of define where the rest of his career goes. Is he a starter? Is he good coming off the bench? Like what kind of player is he? We're going to find that out this year. And again, I think that's the exciting thing about this entire season is we're going to find out about a lot of these guys. If there is a reason, I was talking to someone about this today. If there is a reason to doubt the Magic make the leap, it is simply because they haven't done it before. I love what Jonathan Isaac said. Jonathan Isaac's one of 4 players on this team with playoff experience. It's him, Markelle, Gary, and Joe Ingles. Jonathan Isaac said this. He said, we have all the pieces we need to make the playoffs. We have all the pieces we need to be one of the best teams, that he's been a part of. And he's been part of some decent teams with the Magic. The only thing they're missing is experience. The only thing they don't have is that they've done it before. And so the fun of this season is we're going to get that experience together. We're going to watch them get experience together. And honestly, I would advise fans, don't focus on the results. They make the playoffs, first off, maybe unequivocal here. The Magic should make playoffs. They're a good enough team to make the postseason. They should at least be in the play-in tournament. I would be disappointed if they don't make the play-in tournament. And my expectation for them is that they make the tournament. I will be unequivocal about that. But I don't necessarily think the season is a failure if they don't. This season is about the journey. It's about the day-to-day grind and figuring out who's good, who's bad, who stays, who goes, all that stuff. But it is about the journey of getting there and figuring out what this team needs. I'm going to wrap up the show here very, very shortly. So if you have any last speaker requests on the Twitter Spaces to jump in, go ahead and jump in. If you are in the YouTube page, go ahead and leave a comment. Let's get one last comment here from Durandal. He says, how has the upbeat media day and overall team spirit toward wanting to be a playoff team affected your overall enjoyment to covering the team? AKA, feel an upbeat tick in your fandom this year. Let me put it this way. Just from a journalist perspective, and I think sometimes people, there's been a lot of debate over the course of the offseason about the line between fandom and journalists sometimes. And look, I'm not going to shy away from this. I am a Magic fan. I grew up a Magic fan my entire life. I've watched this team my entire life. I feel like I can speak authoritatively on their history because I've lived it, watched it, and done all that. As a trained journalist, I know how to put my journalist hat on and speak about the team objectively and think about the team objectively. But I would say this. As a human being around other human beings, you want them to be successful. The most fun teams I have been around and I've covered in my lifetime in my professional career have been winning teams. The team that I absolutely adore and love with all my heart is the Northwestern softball team. I covered Northwestern softball for the Daily Northwestern in 2007. They went to the Women's College World Series. That was my second beat for the paper. I covered women's basketball the year before, and I love all those girls too. And that was a good group to be around. But they won 4 games in the Big Ten. There was definitely a struggle. The men's basketball team that I covered won 2 games in the Big Ten. I think just one game in the Big Ten, and I was actually not on that trip. And I was so happy when they won. And I've met back with them on a few occasions as well. Human being, you want the people you're around to succeed. I think one of the things that we forget about journalism is journalists are humans too. They're allowed to be human. They're allowed to have some emotion. They have to know when to put that emotion in check. When to put that emotion to the side and cover the facts objectively. But honestly, I think you're not doing your job correctly or doing your job properly if you are not, at least on some small level, wanting the people you're around to succeed and wanting them to do well. First off, when they're doing well, they're in a better mood. They want to talk to you. It makes your job a little bit easier. You don't have to, you ask hard questions when you need to ask hard questions. I don't think you shy away from that. But I do think I've always approached journalism is from a human level. I'm around these people a lot and I see how hard they work. If there's one thing that's changed about my perspective since I started covering the Magic, more full-time and more regularly, if there's one thing that's changed, it's I have come to respect the players a whole lot more and respect the work that they do and the work that they put in every single day. That is something that I have really come to understand about this league that I didn't understand before I started covering the team. Covering all team is like, the team made this decision, yada, 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 yada. When I started being around the players more, I was like, there is a lot of work that goes into being a player. There's a lot that goes into it. There are a lot of dynamics that you just don't understand. And so I have always come to the approach that I want people around me to succeed. Like I'm always happy for other people's success. You always ask why it doesn't work. You always ask the tough questions and you need to ask the tough questions. I don't think that ever clouds you, but I will admit this, like being around this team, the energy is very, very different. It is different than anything that we experienced during the last decade during this rebuild. There is confidence. There is an understanding of what it's going to take and at least a little bit of certainly a belief that they're going to do what they do. And, they're just good. They're good kids. They're good people. And I think ultimately, we're all humans. This is about human relationships in the end. When you're covering a team and you're talking to a team, if you don't want at some level for these people for these people to succeed, you obviously can't do much to affect it. You're not like openly rooting for it, or you're not, I don't know, it's not openly rooting for it, but you're not gonna, I personally, just for me, I don't celebrate people's failures. I don't celebrate people's failures. That's not my approach to life and not my approach to my job. I do want these guys to succeed. Now, will they, won't they? I put my analyst hat on and tell you the reasons why they will, the reasons why they won't. But from a personal level, just being around these guys, knowing how hard these guys work, I do want them to succeed. And I think it's impossible, just as reporters, as observers, as fans, as team, it's impossible not to feel the energy in that building right now and to be swept up a little bit in the hope that this team is providing. I'm going to have to cut us off there. So I appreciate everyone who's able to jump in on the Twitter Spaces, everyone who watched live. on the YouTube stream. This is going to be the Thursday episode of Locked On Magic. So if you missed our live episode, be sure to listen to Locked On Magic to find out the next time we do a live show. I may be doing a preview show. We'll see if I end up doing that. I may set that up for the New Orleans game. Maybe we'll do it just watch. I don't know. But be sure to check us out wherever you download podcasts. You can find it on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of the places on podcasts to your podcast and listen to this on the Orlando Magic. Be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. And of course, you can subscribe to my new Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub. You can find that at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Check out all the great content that I am putting up there. Again, I want to thank everyone who's able to join the show on the YouTube page, as well as the show on the Twitter Spaces. Until next time, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic, another on our Twitter Spaces here at Orlando Magic Daily. Have a great day, everyone. And speaking of fandom, go Marlins.